If you were approached by a charismatic stranger who tells you that you will soon be rich beyond your wildest dreams and will become the owner of one of the most prominent landmarks to have ever been built on Earth once you buy it off of him, what would you do? Would you give in and say you were traveling to France? Now France is popular for having many beautiful landmarks. Each of them is rich in history and is a vital part of French culture. We have the Arc de Triomphe, the Palace of Versailles, the Notre Dame de Paris, and arguably the most famous one of them all, the Eiffel Tower. Now, did you ever hear the story about the man who sold the Eiffel Tower? Yeah, it was a man named Victor Lustig. And it wasn't just once, but twice. Now, who was Victor Lustig? How did he get around to selling the Eiffel Tower? And what happened to him right after that? Today in this video, we're going to be exploring the story of how this one man sold the Eiffel Tower twice. Welcome back to Business Explained. Let's dive into today's story. Now first off, who was Victor Lustig? Well, according to stories, he was one of America's most dangerous conmen. He was incredibly daring and equally flamboyant. He was born in Hostien, Bohemia, Austria-Hungary on the 4th of January 1890. Growing up, he was found to be extremely intelligent and had a knack for learning. He even learned a lot of languages and became fluent in many of them. However, he was also seen as a troubled youth. When he was 19, while on a break from school in Paris, Victor Lustig fell into gambling. He fell in with a bad crowd and he even got a scar on his face after fighting with the jealous boyfriend of one of his lovers. When he left school, Lustig used his intelligence to lead a life of crime. He launched a lot of scams that garnered him tons of money, and he was able to secure properties through conning people. This turned him into a professional con man. Let's take a look at some of the schemes he pulled off over the years. Now remember, if you want to learn more about schemes like this, learn more about all things money, get educated about how to do business, become business savvy, and enjoy more videos like these, subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell, and may you be granted with many, many sweet returns. Some of Victor Lustig's first cons happened to ocean liners that were sailing between the ports of France and New York City. He primarily targeted rich travelers. Now, much like a script straight out of a movie, Victor Lustig posed as a musical producer.
He managed to convince his marques that he was a Broadway producer in search of investors to put on a dazzling new musical show.
He sought out rich patrons to become investors for Broadway productions that didn't even exist. He was able to con many people in this way, and it's how he was initially able to earn much of his money. However, his income from the scheme was cut when the service of transatlantic liners were halted after World War I. This prompted Lustig to look for a different way to earn money, and a different place to launch his schemes. He traveled to the United States, where he further rose to infamy for being a stone-cold schemer. He was especially infamous for conning a bank back in 1922 by using sleight of hand to steal money and bonds from them. So wait, since Lustig was in America, how did he get around to selling the Eiffel Tower? And what inspired him to do such a thing? Now, Lustig decided to make his way back to France in 1925, where he coincidentally read a section in the newspaper discussing the problems that came with having to maintain one of the country's most famous landmarks, the Eiffel Tower. Upon reading that newspaper article, the little idea bulb lit up in his mind. This was going to be his next scheme. The Eiffel Tower had begun to fall into despair. The city of Paris was having a harder time paying for its upkeep and maintenance. But the citizens of Paris believed that the landmark was a vital part of the city. In the same news article, the writer talked about how selling the tower would be a viable option, and that's exactly what Victor Lustig decided to do. Never mind that he did not own the rights to the Eiffel Tower, that was just a minor hitch to his plan. And so, the ball started rolling. He got himself a fake ID, whipped up some false papers printed with the emblem of the government department responsible for running public buildings, and he invited leading iron salvage companies to the Krillin Hotel. Upon meeting the company representatives, he told them a story about how the Eiffel Tower needed to be sold for scrap, but he also told them it was strictly hush-hush. That was when Lustig picked out his victim for this scheme, André Poisson. Poisson was relatively new to the area, and he wanted to make a name for himself in Paris. He expressed his doubts about the deal to Lustig, and Lustig calmed his fears by telling him how he was merely an underpaid government worker who needed a little extra to get by. In return for guaranteeing that the quote-unquote contract is awarded to Poisson, Lustig asked for a little cash on the side, in other words, a bribe. Now, Poisson was absolutely positive that it was a normal practice for government officials to ask for a bribe, so his fears easily dissipated and he no longer doubted the legitimacy of the whole deal. He paid for the price of the deal, plus a little extra for Lustig's service. Little did he know that he was going to be in for the shock of his life. Soon, Lustig hopped a train bound for Vienna, with Poisson still blissfully unaware that he had just been scammed. A few days later, Poisson faced ridicule from the post, telegraph, and telephone companies when he asked when the tower was to be dismantled. He quickly realized that he had been conned, and he refrained from reporting what had happened to the police in order to save face. When he realized that there was no buzz surrounding the affair, Lustig returned to Paris. He then tried to sell the tower again using the same method. However, his new victim dug deeper than Poisson had and discovered that it was a fraud. The police were notified and they were ready to arrest Lustig, but they were too late. Lustig had already left the country and fled to America. So what happened to Lustig when he escaped from France? Did he get caught in America? Did he turn away from his life of crime to become an honest man? Or did he launch more grand schemes and swindle more people out of their hard-earned money? Well, that's a story for another video. What are your thoughts on Victor Lustig and how he sold the Eiffel Tower twice? Are you amazed that he was able to pull off as many scams as he did? Do you think that the type of scams that he did will fly in today's society? Let me know what your thoughts are. Comment them down below in the comment section, and I'll be responding to all of you who comment within the first hour of me posting this video. If you enjoyed this video, you should check out my other video titled Apple: How Apple Stocks Compare to Competitors. There are still many industries still undergoing the recovery period from the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, but it seems that major tech companies are leading the pack in terms of bouncing back and staying afloat during these tough times. Today we're going to be talking about one such big tech company. In fact, it's one of the biggest consumer tech companies in the world today. You've guessed it, we're going to be talking about Apple and how its stocks are faring in such a tumultuous business environment. In spite of the global pandemic, it seems that Apple had a pretty good year. In fact, compared to other smartphone companies and manufacturers, Apple has been far less negatively impacted by lockdowns and community quarantine periods implemented across the globe. Just in September, it was reported that Apple's share jumped way up high after it released its second quarter earnings. The company rose to a market cap of over a whopping $2 trillion. However, a lot of investors are still thinking of whether or not Apple stock should be bought. How has Apple stock been faring recently? How is Apple doing for its fourth quarter? And how does its performance compare to that of its key competitors? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be diving into in today's video, so check it out on Apple: How Apple Stocks Compare to Competitors, and join me as we take a look at how Apple stocks are doing. Stay tuned, stay educated.